Oh yeah, best part of the day. Got all the work done and start a fire in the warm room and kick back and think about what we accomplished and what we're going to accomplish tomorrow. But this is also where I do fireside chat. And tonight, I am going to tell you the incredible Richie story. So a little bit of background. Richie, I met him. We attended the Seventh Adventist Church when I was a kid. And his family came down from a neighboring town to go to church because their town didn't have a Seventh Adventist church. And that's when I first met Richie. And I don't know if you remember back when that little magazine came out for kids. It was called Mad, and they had that funny-looking character on the front with the big ears and the red hair and the freckles and the big space in his front teeth. Oh my gosh, that is probably one of the best descriptions of Richie that I could give you to give you a mental picture. Anyway, when I went up to shake hands with him, he had his hand out, and my hand was out, but the hands weren't coming together. And that's when I looked into Richie's eyes and I realized that he was blind. Blind. So I finally found his hand, we shook hands, and from that point forth, we became really good friends. Eventually, his mom and dad, wasn't too long after that, his dad was a veterinarian, and they realized they weren't going to have a church up there for quite some time, so they ended up moving to the town where I was living in, Lewiston, and believe it or not, they ended up being about 6 blocks away. So if Richie wasn't at our house, I was at Richie's house, and liked it at his place because somebody prior to them moving in had built this big tree house. And we would go up there in this tree house and of course would spend hours and hours and hours up there. And if you can imagine Richie, now here's a kid that was born blind, had never seen anything. His world was total darkness. And he was just flat. He did not believe in God. Another way to put it, he was an atheist with a capital A. He said, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in a God that would make a little boy blind. All we hear about is God is love and God is this and God is that. And, he knows the hairs on your head. And why on earth would he make a boy blind? I just don't get it. So there was no convincing him otherwise, so we didn't even try. We just accepted that was Richie's belief system, and that was it. So we would literally spend hours up in that treehouse trying to describe things to Richie so he could get an understanding of what people with sight just took for granted. His mom would always make us these peanut butter and dill pickle sandwiches, and they were delicious. I still love that to this day. In fact, there's a place over here not too far from us, a bar that serves a peanut butter and dill pickle burger. I haven't tried it yet, but that's next on the menu when I go there. So anyway, Richie would say, well, what is bread anyway? Well, you can imagine, somebody didn't know what it looked like, what color it was or anything. You'd go on for hours, describing how it was made, and of course that would lead to other questions, and what is a pickle? It's a green cucumber that somebody put into, you can understand. It just went on and on and on, hour upon hour upon hour. What is blue? What is red? And we tried to take the colors and equate them to something he could understand, like heat. Red is hot. Blue is cooler. Black is absence of anything. It's just void, like what you see. And so we kind of developed a communication, and we helped him understand as best we could. And as we got older, of course, in our teens, the talk turned to girls, and Richie wanted to know all about girls, why they were different, how they were different from us, and those conversations were pretty interesting. And of course, we said there's, his older brother, He had an older brother and a younger sister. His older brother said, "Oh yeah, blondes are the bomb, man. If you ever get married, Richie, you're gonna want to marry a blonde." Why? What's different about blonde? On and on and on and on and on for hours upon hours we would talk. Well, as we got older, Richie went off to college, and I went off to college. He went over on the west side and majored in over in the Seattle Bellevue area and majored in communications. You know, teaching people how to read Braille and how to communicate, and it was a great field for him. And he married a blonde. Her name was Pam, and they had two beautiful kids. And one day, and ironically, at the time that this happened, I had become a pastor, and I was a public speaker. I traveled all over the country, and one day a rabbi came up to me and said, he says, I've heard you speak several times, and he said, you've kind of left the motivational arena and you've become more spiritual. He says, have you ever thought about becoming a preacher? I just kind of laughed it off. And when I got back home after that trip, the little local Methodist church that we were attending, where I spoke at, occasionally when I was in town, came up to me and said, we got a vacancy in a little church in a little town called Asotin. And man, if you would fill it temporarily, that would be amazing. And so I said yes, and 16 years later, yeah, it turned out to be more of a major full-time position. But anyway, I was preaching at that little church when I got the call from Richie's wife, Pam. And you could tell by her voice that she was upset, and she'd been crying, and she goes, Randy, she goes, I'm just reaching out. You need to know Richie was in a horrible car accident, and, said he is literally totally crushed on one side. He's in a drug-induced coma, and they're going to keep him in that coma until they can get his body somewhat stabilized. They don't know. He's got internal bleeding. Everything on that side is broken. Every bone, rib, leg, arm, shoulder, elbow, you name it. It's all crushed. And she said it's going to be a long, long road, and it's all up to Richie when he comes out of the coma if he's going to want to, hang around and go through what it's going to take to put him back together. So weeks went by, and didn't hear anything. And then one day I get this call, and I'm driving down the road, and I pulled over, and I hear this weak voice on the other end, and it was Richie. And I go, Richie, oh my gosh, you're back. You're back to the world of the living. Yes, he said, I'm back. I am back. And do I have an incredible story for you? And I go, really? And he goes, Randy, I absolutely, unequivocally believe in God and heaven. And I go, really? And wow, yeah, I'm interested. Tell me about this story. And he said, well, when they put me in the coma, he said, I was kind of like in no man's land there for a while. I could sometimes leave my body and look down and see, me laying there, all bandaged up and in traction and stuff, and then I'd immediately go back in my body, and until one day I went out of my body and I heard a voice. And the voice said, Richie, you are seeing, your body down there. It's not you. You are the aspect that I'm talking to right now. And I'm just here to let you know that you don't have to go back in that body if you don't want to. There's a better place waiting for you. The pain and the suffering that you're going to have to endure in your recovery is going to be astronomical. And so, but I'm willing to do something for you. And he goes, what's that? And the voice said, I am willing to let you, during this time that you're in the coma, be able to walk freely on the grounds, anywhere you want to go, to your home, and nobody will be able to communicate with you. You'll only be able to observe, but you will get to see all the things that you have never been able to see in your lifetime. And Richie just said, well, yes, absolutely. I would want to do that before I made that decision. So Richie said, Randy, you're not going to believe it, man. I know what a tie is. I know why Pam tells me I can't wear that tie. I have to wear a different tie. I know what my doctor looks like. I know what my kids look like. Randy, I married a blonde. I married a blonde. he was just talking 90 miles a minute, on and on and on and on and on about grass and all the things we talked about. And he goes, man, you tried so hard to get me to understand all this stuff, these things that I had never seen, and now I'm out there and all the pieces are coming together. He said, it's just like I watched a movie that literally filled all the black void that I had lived with my entire life. And he said, Randy, he says, I just got to tell you, I don't care what it takes. I don't care how many surgeries I gotta endure, and I know there's going to be a bunch. He says, I am going to do whatever it takes so that I can live my life out with this family that I love and pursuing this work that, allows me to bring value, to the world. And I'll be blind. Yeah, after this, I'll never see again, of course. But I will go and I will speak to people wherever I am invited. And I will tell them that there is a God, that there is a place, that there is something so wonderful that even I, who am a communicator, who teach communications, can't put it into words. Because what little bit I was allowed to view and see and be a part of is much more amazing than words can describe. So Randy, I know you're a pastor now, and I want you to tell my story. Randy, tell it wherever you can, wherever you go. Tell the story of how this little blind atheist boy ended up reaching a place in his life where he literally became a believer, became a lover of life, and a survivor of an accident that would have put most people in the grave. I love you, buddy. And I'll be there with you every step of the way. And today, Richie's true to his word. He just finished another surgery, a total of about 86 surgeries he's had to go through to put him back together. And he's out speaking now when he can, when he's strong enough. And his wife Pam and his kids dearly love him. And he is just the greatest human being you would ever want to meet. So that, my friends, is the Richie story.